Well, we got our finale episode of the first season of Hawkeye. This series was more important to the MCU than many people had expected. There were a ton of reveals, and more importantly, some major Marvel returns. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about this week's episode in our spoiler-free review. Now, before we dive in though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the big giveaway. We got a PlayStation 5 to give away at 25,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on the giveaway is be a subscriber and leave us a comment. Also, while you're at it, make sure you check out that free Week of Skillshare down below. It's a pretty great way for you to develop all of your superhero skills for that never-ending war on crime, all while not diving too deep into your pocket. Plus, it really does help the channel, so we really appreciate it. Well, last night saw the final episode of the first year of Marvel Studios TV, with the 6th episode of Hawkeye entitled, Is This Christmas? Now, we're going to avoid spoilers in this review, but we're going to get pretty close, so I want you to keep that in mind before you dive in case you haven't seen the show. The final episode was really a great story and mostly focused on relationships. There was a ton of action, but I don't really think it override the completion of a rather complex story. Almost all the moving pieces for this first season of Hawkeye come together in a rather nice package. And it was nearly a mini MCU movie, having a runtime of almost a full hour. Now, this wasn't all action. We got a lot of story development, so I have to say if there's any downside to this episode, they backloaded the whole action segments to the end of the episode, which I guess is pretty typical for a finale, but it did drag a little in the beginning. Now, like I said, this was about relationships, and there were quite a few complex ones. We get some nice resolution to Hawkeye's story and why he stayed behind in New York after the watch. As we know, this was tied directly to Laura, and all was revealed here. A lot of MCU theories about her character were totally confirmed, and when you watch the episode, pay attention to the number on the back of the watch. The other big relationship for Clint Barton, though, is the one with Kate Bishop, and I loved how they fully and completely developed this over the course of the season. By the end of the episode, it's pretty clear to everybody that Kate and Clint have some sort of future. And the jokes that close the episode out really do give you a pretty great idea of where they're going. I think Kate Bishop being added to the MCU is going to be big, and her relationship with Clint Barton is going to remain front and center. Now, one of the other relationships that Kate developed too was with Yelena Belova, and her storyline in this episode reached a nice conclusion. As we all knew, she was after Clint Barton, and blamed him for the death of his sister Natasha. How this is wrapped up and the little bits and pieces of Marvel lore they used to do it worked out really well. I never once believed Yelena was a bad person, and once she saw the facts of what actually happened, plus Clint's deep emotional connection with Natasha, I was pretty sure they were going to work it all out, and I wasn't disappointed. Now, the biggest news in the episode was the return of the Kingpin. We got teased with him at the end of the last episode, and Vincent D'Onofrio was back in full form. Now, this is obviously a little bit of a different version than the previous one we knew. He dresses in a very similar manner, but I don't know if you noticed in the trailers, we now have the classic Kingpin cane and a much more physical version of the character. You'll see what I mean when you watch the episode, but he is clearly nobody to be trifled with. Now, speaking of the Kingpin, this is where we dive deeply into Maya Lopez and Echo. As many of you knew, this story is being developed throughout the whole season. Her relationship with the Tracksuit Mafia and Kazi get put to the test in this episode, and it's pretty clear she has totally figured out the riddle of her father's death. That interaction with Clint Barton last episode seemed to give her the clarity that she needs, and by the end of the episode, it will leave most fans wondering why they chose to do this. But I would have to recommend you go and read the Echo comics. I'm not going to spoil her final scene, but something big happens that did happen in the comics, and I don't want you to misperceive that scene. Don't make any assumptions about what you think you heard. Now, a lot of other minor characters also got a rather satisfying conclusion. Eleanor Bishop is fully exposed, and her getting her just desserts throughout the episode was rather satisfying. Also, the swordsman, Tony Dalton, was awesome. I'm not going to give away a lot, but what they did with this character this season and the misdirection they used was quite enjoyable. And then there's the LARPers. Although an unexpected surprise, their conclusion in the episode was pretty awesome, and them being aligned with Clint Barton is not only hilarious, but given Clint's evolution, also pretty appropriate. Now, overall, I'm going to give this finale an 8.5 out of 10. I liked Hawkeye. I liked the season. I'm looking forward to more, and I really want to know what's going to happen with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. More importantly, I gotta know what Marvel is going to do with Yelena and Kate. The chemistry between those two actresses was awesome, and every scene they shared was completely enjoyable. I can't imagine Marvel Studios not doing as much as they can with these two characters. So, what did you guys think? Did you like the finale of Hawkeye? And if so, what was your favorite big reveal in this week's episode? For me, it was The Watch. Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe. And if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.